that we got all of that out of the way. I feel like I've been rambling. Have I been rambling? Ooh, I don't know. Okay. So now I'm going to kind of get into what I bought and what's going to be good for you. And in my last juicing feast, I got so many questions about, like, Anna, where do you get all your recipes from? I don't use recipes. I have never used a recipe, to be honest with you. Sometimes that works for me, sometimes it does not work for me. I'm not going to sit here and say every juice I've ever had is, like, delicious and so good. No, most of them taste like crap. I mean, they're really not very tasty, but you know what, I will say, like, in the beginning, it's really hard to get used to them. It really, really is. But there are certain things I've found that can, like, knock out the taste of other things, so I'll kind of get into that while I'm going through what I got in my grocery list. But no, it's not going to be good right away. It's not going to be like you're eating a filet mignon, okay? But maybe like week 1, week 2, once you drink it, like I always say, it looks worse than it tastes. Sometimes I'll look at it and be like, oh my god, I don't want to drink that. Like, that looks so disgusting. But then I'll drink it and I'll go, no, okay, it's not that bad, you know? Like, I can totally get that down. So let's just jump into that. So, okay, first thing that I got, which is like essential to all my juices, I prefer this over any other dark leafy green, is spinach. I usually get like a big old bag of this. So this doesn't yield a lot of juice, and you'll find that with like the leafy green vegetables, they don't really yield a lot of juice. But they will add so much nutrients to your juices, and it will really, really help, you know, revitalize your cells and replenish all this life force back to your cells. So spinach I prefer over kale. I will use kale too, but every day I'll use spinach. And I love spinach just, you know, like on its own. Like if I was just eating a meal, I would eat spinach. I like spinach. So another thing I got is kale. Kale is like a super food. I mean, if you haven't heard about kale being a superfood, you've been living under a rock. Kale is good for everything. It's good for your eyesight. It's good for your digestive system. It's good for your skin. It's good for everything. It's good for your skin. Kale is good for everything. So at some produce markets you can buy it and it'll be like a whole big bunch like this, and it's really very inexpensive. At Walmart they sell it in little bunches like this, so you kind of have to like buy a few of them to get what you need. What I'll do is, if you can see, they have like different stalks in here of it, so I'll put in maybe one particular juice, I'll put like maybe 2 or 3 stalks of kale in there out of the bunch. They don't really yield a lot of juice either, and when you're juicing, depending on what kind of juicer you have, some juicers are specifically made for leafy greens and other juicers are not. So what I like to do is maybe I'll put in like kale, and then I'll cut the cucumber. If I'm putting a cucumber in there, I'll cut the cucumber into like thirds, and so I'll feed in some of the kale, and then I'll do a cucumber right after, and maybe do one right before, so that you're getting, you know, yielding a lot of juice with all the nutrients sucking it through. Okay, another thing that's really good to put in all your juices, celery. I don't particularly like the taste of celery in my juices. I think it has a very strong taste, not particularly a good one. I do love to eat celery, like, you know, by itself. I love to eat celery, but I really don't like the way that celery tastes in a juice. However, it has such good benefits for you in a juice. It really kind of helps move everything along through your digestive system. So this is really good to have in your juices. It kind of gets everything going the way it should be going. So while I don't like it, I put maybe a stalk or 2 in there in every juice, just to have. Also, it will yield a lot of juice. Celery is very high in water content, so you're gonna get a lot of juice from celery. Also carrots. Carrots are actually very sweet in juice, which I don't know that I would necessarily know if I was just eating a carrot. I think carrots are kind of bland. Usually I love to dip them with like ranch or something. But in juicing, carrots actually add a lot of sweetness to your juice. I usually buy like a bag of carrots. These ones are pretty big. They're pretty like long and thick, so I would maybe do like 1.5 to 2 carrots per juice. these ones look like they're pretty well washed, so what I would do is just give them a good scrub with some vegetable wash. And also you're going to want to wash all your fruits and vegetables, which is what I like to do as soon as I buy them and get them home. I'll just wash everything right away. I mean, clearly not like the leafy greens, I'll do that when I'm ready to juice them, but things that I can wash, like apples, you know, cucumbers, anything that kind of has a skin that you'll be using. You want to wash all of the waxes and stuff. It's really good to try to get like organic fruits and vegetables, but if they're not accessible to you, and they can also be a little bit pricey sometimes, so if you get regular vegetables, that's fine. You know, it's not going to kill you, and you're already better off than eating a piece of pizza, so golden in my book. I also get apples. This is like a 5-pound bag of apples. I really don't like to buy apples like this in like the bags, because you can only get like one kind of apple, and they're always like a little bit smaller. I usually like to get from the produce market, which I obviously can't get right now, are like these bigger apples. This is a Honeycrisp apple. These are so delicious. Like, I love them in my juices. I like to do maybe like 2 of these because they're really big. They will yield a lot of juice, and I'll do maybe like a morning juice, just 2 Honeycrisp apples. Maybe a little shoot of ginger. That's it. Can't go wrong there. So, okay, bag full of apples and bag full of cucumbers. I think there's about 5 here, and that sounds about right to last about 3 to 4 days. I won't always put a whole cucumber in my juice. Sometimes I'll just put a half, especially if I'm doing it like adding carrots and celery as well, because they're both also high in water content, that you will get a lot of juice from those, so you don't need to necessarily use a whole cucumber. It'll just last you longer that way. This is my fave to put in my juices, romaine lettuce hearts. I'll just cut the bottom off where it's like really thick at the bottom. I'll cut that part off, and I usually use a whole heart stock, whatever you want to call it, heart stock, in my juice. These actually have a lot of water content to them, especially if you wash them right before you juice them. It'll kind of like retain that water, and you'll get a nice return of juice from these. Also is pretty bland, so if you don't really like the taste of, you know, a bitter juice, because kale and spinach are very bitter. And they'll also, don't be alarmed when you're making your juice and you see that it's very dark in color. A lot of like infomercials and stuff that you watch will have like your juice being like this bright green color that looks so tasty, and a lot of them are not like that. They wind up being like a murky brown color, and you're like, what the hell, like, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong, it's just the color of the vegetable being broken down, and it's totally fine. But actually, when you use romaine lettuce, and let's say for instance like a juice with romaine lettuce, 1 carrot, an apple, and a celery stick, you're gonna get a nice pretty green color. And I love when you like do a juice and you get this really pretty color. If you do beets in your juice, you'll get like a really pretty brown, really pretty red